this thing on? Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are doing fabulous in this new year. Crazy that we're already in 2026 and it has been a hot minute, but I'm back. I feel motivated. I feel excited to start recording more YouTube videos to hopefully grow my channel a little bit more and see where this reading journey takes us in the new year. So I thought it'd be fun to start off by tier ranking my 2025 reads. Now, real quick, just to go through some of my stats from 2025, I read 92 books total. I think my average star was around a 3.8, which is about what my average star rating was for 2024, so not much has changed there. But that's honestly one of my goals for 2026 is to read books that I'm actually interested in, focus on quality over quantity, and then hopefully I can get that average star rating maybe up to a 4-star, because that would be great. So without further ado, let's just dive right into the rankings. So to kind of briefly give an overview of each of the tier rankings, starting from the bottom, I have Annoyed Just Thinking About It. This is usually a book that I did not like. Every time I see this book, I just think about how much I did not like it, and so obviously that is at the bottom of the tier. Then we have above that the meh category, where I would say for this one, like, the book wasn't bad, it wasn't good, it was just meh, like nothing like really stuck out to me. And moving on to Forgot I Read / Don't Remember Much, basically meaning I completely forgot I read the book just in general, or I honestly could not tell you anything about the plot or the characters. I literally just don't remember anything about the book. Then we move on to I'd Recommend. This is kind of more, I would say, the like 3-star area, where again, the book wasn't bad. It maybe wasn't for me, but it could be for somebody else. So like I would definitely recommend it. And then going off to Just Good. Now, this might sound negative, but I promise it is supposed to be more on the positive side, where again, it's like the book wasn't bad, it wasn't great, it was just good. Like, I enjoyed my time reading it, didn't really think about it much after I had finished the book, but I still think it was a good book. Then we have Almost But Not Quite. These are for the books that I really enjoyed, but they just weren't quite that 5-star feeling, but I still would really recommend, and I did think that the book was great at the time of reading it. And then we have the very top tier, which was Bewitched Me. I've used this description for a couple years now, where it's based off of the line from Pride and Prejudice, where he says, "You've bewitched me body and soul," and that's how I feel about my 5-star reads. So I will say a lot of these tiers was highly inspired by Sara Carrolli and her video that she just did. So make sure you go check out her channel, show some love to that video. So thank you, Sarah, for inspiring this tier ranking. But yeah, I'm excited to dive in. So let's just go for it, shall we? Starting off with And Every Morning the Way Home Gets Longer and Longer by Frederick Bachman. This was the last book that I read in 2025. It is a short story by Frederick Bachman. I kind of towards the end of the year was just trying to find some fast-paced quick reads just so I could kind of, get that reading goal up. And honestly, I really did enjoy this one. It was very heartwarming. I actually cried, even though it's like 100 pages around there. It does deal with a very heavy topic. I'm not even sure if I can say it online through YouTube. It's from the perspective of this gentleman, this grandfather, who is slowly losing his ability to remember things, if you know what I mean. There is a specific diagnosis for that, but again, I don't know if I can say it on YouTube. And so it honestly was a very heavy topic, I feel like, to cover, especially in a short story. I did really enjoy Frederick Bachman's author note that he had at the beginning, where he talked about how he wrote this short story just to kind of help him process through some things that he was going with. And so I feel like you could tell that the story was very near and dear to his heart and something that he could relate to personally. So I would say I would put it in the just good category. Again, just good is in a positive sense, where it's like it was just good overall. Alright, moving on to Snowed In by Catherine Walsh. This is a Christmas romance. It is actually the sequel to Holiday Romance, which we'll get to in just a second. It was a cute read, I will say that. It did get a little spicy compared to Holiday Romance. I think there was more spice in Snowed In than in the first book, and honestly, there were a couple times where I could have done without that, but it's still a really fun read, so I would say I put it in I'd recommend. And then we have the first book in the series, which is Holiday Romance. It kind of reminded me a little bit of People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry, but the Christmas version, and our main characters are Irish, which again, I listened to the audiobook for this one and I loved the experience. So I would say I enjoyed Holiday Romance more than I enjoyed Snowed In. And so I would put Holiday Romance in, because I wouldn't say it was almost a 5-star, but I definitely enjoyed it more than Snowed In, so I'm gonna put it in just good. Okay, then we have I Am Rebel. This is actually a young reader's book, and it honestly ended up being a very sweet and wholesome read. The whole book is from the perspective of this dog named Rebel, which I will say, Rebel lives at the end, okay? The dog does not die at the end of the book. I know that's like a huge huge thing when it comes to animals in books, but the dog very much lives at the end. So I would say I would definitely recommend this one, especially if you're just wanting like a sweet and wholesome read, but also a quick read as well. It just kind of reminded me of a lot of the books that I grew up reading when I was kind of around that young reader's age, so I would say I definitely recommend this one. Then we have Made for Each Other by Lynn Painter. Now, I love Lynn Painter's young adult romances. I have not read any of her adult romances. This was the first one that I read that was her adult romance. And I honestly would say it's just meh. Like, it wasn't bad. There were definitely some parts that I enjoyed, but I just remember it being, nothing really major stuck out to me. It was a fun read. I think I gave it like 3 stars. So again, it wasn't a bad book. It just nothing really profound stuck out to me or anything. And because Lynn Painter's adult romances tend to have more spice in it, this is an open door romance. So I did end up having to kind of skip over that a little bit. So honestly, maybe I'd just move it to I'd recommend, because again, it wasn't a bad book. It just nothing like super memorable, I guess. Then we have Where the Library Hides, which is the second book in the What the River Knows duology. I think it's called Secrets of the Nile. And I read this book when I was in a major reading slump, so honestly, I don't remember much from this book. I think I audiobooked most of it. And again, because I was in a reading slump, I was just trying to power through books, which is obviously not the best reading experience. I just had some stuff going on in my personal life. I was really busy with work, and so I just was not invested in any of the books that I was reading. But I did really enjoy the first one, but sadly the second one, I would say I honestly don't remember much from it at all. Then we have Ruthless Vows, which is the second book in the Divine Rivals duology. And I would honestly put this at just good. I think I'm with the majority in that the second book was not as good as the first one, but I did really enjoy my time while I was reading it. I enjoyed being back in that world, connecting with the characters again. Just in this book specifically, it felt like there were parts that dragged on a little bit, and then the parts where I would have wished we had more detail just felt like kind of were resolved very quickly, and so the pacing was just off a little bit for me. But overall, I would definitely recommend the series. It is really, really good. Then we have Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. This was my first Abby Jimenez book that I ever read, and honestly, I'd put this in I'd recommend. It wasn't my favorite romance. I think I did end up giving it a 4-star. Hello? Oh no! Same clothes, different day, because technology is frustrating. As you guys saw, I have no idea what happened, but the site crashed and then it deleted my entire tier ranking. Then I got it fixed, pressed record again, and then my camera proceeded to delete an hour-long clip of me talking. I think I made it about halfway through my books before I realized that my camera just was not working again. So I had to take a step away. So we're doing this again and picking up where we left off. I seriously debated about just deleting everything and starting over, but honestly, this is sometimes the struggles that come with making videos in YouTube. So trying to be as real and transparent on here as I can. So without further ado, let's just jump right back in again. Okay, I also figured out that I could put it in presentation mode, so hopefully we won't have any of those like weird ads around the frame again, and hopefully the site won't crash. So if I remember correctly, I think we were last talking about Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, and I think my only final thought with this one is I just didn't really like how you had the physical connection first and then the emotional connection followed. I usually like it when the characters have that emotional connection and then that leads to the more physical connection. So I didn't really like how it was reversed. The couple was very sweet and they did eventually get that emotional connection, but I think I just would have much preferred that first versus towards the back half of the book. So because of that, I would still recommend it. I loved Abby Jimenez's writing. I may read a couple of her other books just to see. They were pretty spicy. If I remember correctly, the spice was fairly easy to just kind of skip over. So that was my final thoughts on that one. And then moving on to The Wicked King, which is the second book in the Cruel Prince trilogy. And I think I'm in the minority here in saying that just The Cruel Prince was not for me. I just didn't really care for Jude. I was having trouble connecting with her, connecting with Carden, and just the world building. If you are looking for kind of a more politically driven fantasy series that is low to no spice, I would still recommend it. I do remember really enjoying the second one. There were some twists that got me for sure. But overall, it's not my favorite series, but I would still put The Wicked King in I recommend. Then we have The Bright Side of Disaster by Catherine Center. I honestly don't remember much from this book. I think all I remember is that our main character broke off her engagement, but then she becomes pregnant and is having to kind of solo parent. But then she makes a connection with her neighbor who ends up stepping in. That's about all I remember. I don't remember connecting with the characters. I don't even remember the characters' names. So unfortunately, because of that, I think I'm going to have to put it in the don't remember much category. Then we have Fake Skating by Lynn Painter, which I love Lynn Painter's YA romances. However, this one just wasn't doing it for me. There was way too much language in this one to be considered young adult. I think I saw somebody calculated there's over 200 uses of the F word in a YA book. And that didn't sit well with me. I thought the storyline was okay. There definitely was some miscommunication, which like you kind of expect when it comes to high school romances, but I just remember being super frustrated that, it wasn't resolved sooner. So because of that, I would still recommend it. I would probably recommend it more for adults just because of the language barrier. I would probably be hesitant to recommend it to like a younger teenager who's like 13, 14. There is no spice, that is for sure. I would still recommend it. And we have The Heir, which is the fourth book in the Selection series, and I honestly don't remember much from this one, other than I just kind of got, I think, a little annoyed with our main character because it's following the daughter of the two main characters from the original Selection trilogy. Could you have done without this book? Probably. So I think I'm just going to put it in the don't remember much category. Then we have The One, which is the third book in the Selection series, so kind of working backwards here. Again, I just don't remember much from this series. I think really the first book is the only one that stuck out to me. I don't remember much from the rest of the series, so sadly that's where it's going to go. And we have Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I really got into Emily Henry's books in 2025. This was her new release. And while I did enjoy it, it was very different than a lot of her other books. You're kind of following almost two different storylines. And I remember anytime it would kind of bounce back and forth, I would just kind of get taken out of each one. I kind of wish it maybe stuck with one storyline a little bit longer before switching to the other one. So it wasn't my favorite by Emily Henry, but I would still definitely recommend it. Then we have A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. This is my second book that I read by her. I read The 7-Year Slip, which I think I gave that one 4-star. It was still good. I definitely don't think I connected with it as much as like some other people would have, but I still enjoyed it. And so I was excited to read another one by her. And unfortunately, this one just kind of fell flat for me. The concept was really cool. I just think the execution could have been better. So I think because of that, I'm going to have to put it in the meh category. And we have The Off Limits Rule by Sarah Adams. Oh boy. Okay. So unfortunately, this book just kind of annoys me just thinking about it because I got the major ick, I think, within the first 10 to 15% of the book. And it's when our two main characters are meeting for the first time, which you definitely don't want to get the ick when that is happening. So that was really the only thing that stuck out in my mind. I did finish the book. It did kind of have a sweet ending, but unfortunately it annoys me just thinking about it. And we have Love and Gelato. This one was a really cute read. I read it over the summer. I definitely think it's a good summer read because it takes place during the summertime in Italy. There is like a little bit of a mystery that also goes with it too. So I would say like I would recommend it. Like it's a cute read. By no means is it life changing, but if you're looking for a sweet YA romance, quick summer read, yeah, I would definitely recommend it. Then we have The Deal of a Lifetime by Frederick Bachman. This is another one of his short stories that I read towards the end of the year. And honestly, maybe I'm just dumb, but I did not understand this one at all. I did not get the metaphor or the meaning at all, and it's only like an 80-page short story. So unfortunately, I'm just gonna have to put it in the don't remember much because I genuinely just did not understand the book, and that could just be me. Who knows? Then we have The Love Haters by Katherine Center. Again, I love Katherine Center's books. This was her new release last year, and I honestly, like, I did enjoy this one. It did keep me up late at night past my bedtime reading because I just had to know what was happening. There definitely is some more outlandish storylines that take place in this book, which I know a lot of people didn't really like, but I honestly thought it just added to the fun atmosphere, so I would put it in the just good category. Then we have Home Safe by Tracy Bach. Tracy Bach is a indie author that I discovered through Paris May Reads, which you should definitely go check out. Her Instagram, her YouTube channel. Love Paris and all of her content that she makes. And so I was able to read a ARC copy of this one. And honestly, this one bewitched me. I absolutely loved this book. I thought it was very sweet, very wholesome. The two main characters were just very mature. They communicated well. I loved the romance, loved the side characters, loved everything about this. Highly, highly recommend you go and read this one as well as any other book by Tracy Bach because she is just fantastic. Then we have Funny Story by Emily Henry. Like I said, I got kind of on an Emily Henry kick last year. This one I enjoyed. I will say I did not really like the ending. Sorry, my cat's going to town on her scratching post. Anywho, I will say there's some stuff that kind of annoyed me with the ending, but I did still really enjoy the storyline and the romance. I loved that our main female character was a librarian, and so she very much was a bookish type of person. So I would put it in the just good category. Again, even though I didn't really enjoy the ending, there were still enough elements of the book that I would say it was a good book. Then we have We'll Always Have Summer by Jenny Han. This is the third book in the Summer I Turned Pretty series. I myself, like everybody else, probably was obsessed with the TV show that came out over the summer, as well as I had to read the books before I saw the TV show. And honestly, like, it is overall a really good series. I would put it in the I'd recommend. Again, if you're looking for just a fun YA summer read, each book is like less than 300 pages, so it is a very easy read, perfect for the beach. So I would definitely recommend this series. Then we have Kisses and Croissants, which is another YA romance. This one follows a ballerina who gets accepted into a summer intensive in Paris. This book, I think, was about 300 pages, and it took me over a month to read. And I think that is honestly just because I did not care at all for the characters, for the storyline. I found the descriptions of ballet, like, I wish we could have gone more in depth with that. And maybe that's because I was a dancer and I've done ballet and pointe and all of that stuff before. But yeah, like, I wish it would have gone more in depth into like the description of the art of ballet rather than focusing on like the teenage love part of it. So because of that, I would put it in just the meh category. Then I did reread Reckless before Fearless came out, and honestly, this series I have read it twice now, and I always enjoy it. I love the series as a whole. I love the characters, but it never just quite has that 5-star feel where I'm constantly thinking about it. So it goes in the almost but not quite category. Then we have If Cats Disappeared from the World. This one was kind of an oddball for me. It is a Japanese short story that was translated into English. And the whole premise of it is that our main character has like a week left to live, and then he makes a bargain with the devil, where for everything that he erases from the face of the earth, the devil will grant him one more day of life. So even though it's only like a 200-page book, I still thought it was really good, really profound. So I would put it in the just good category. Then we have Sunrise on the Reaping. I absolutely love the Hunger Games. Grew up reading them. I was very much the girl that wore her hair in a braid like Katniss all throughout high school. So I was very excited when we were getting a Haymitch backstory. I will say though, for some reason, this one just did not hit, I think, as it did for everybody else. I do still really enjoyed it. I enjoyed all of the little Easter eggs, but I think I would just put it in the almost but not quite category. I am going to reread it before the movie comes out later this year. Then we have Fearful, which is the last novella in the Powerless series. And honestly, like, I enjoyed this one. I didn't think it was necessary. Like, I think we could have maybe gone without it or have just added a little bit more backstory for Kit in the last book. If you know, you know. But like as a whole, I would say like I'd recommend it. It definitely added to Kit's backstory a little bit more and kind of what was going on during Fearless. So I would say I'd recommend it. Then we have Pumpkin Spice and Everything Nice. So boy, this book just makes me annoyed thinking about it. I did not like the main female character at all. I thought she was just really mean to our male main character for no reason. And I just remember the whole time being like, girl, get a grip. Calm down. Okay. So annoyed just thinking about it. Then we have What the River Knows. This is the first book in the Secrets of the Nile duology. And I really enjoyed the first one. I loved the setting and the storyline. I kind of got into that like historical fantasy genre last year. I will say I don't think about it too much. There were parts of the book that were really slow, so I think I would put it in the just good category. It is a good series. Again, if you like Divine Rivals and even I would say The Rose Bargain, you might enjoy this duology as well. Then we have The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. This is the only book that I've read by Riley Sager, and unfortunately, it just was not for me. I thought the twist at the end was very odd and kind of left me feeling icky more than like suspenseful, I guess is the way to say it. So honestly, because of that, I would put it in the meh category. I have not read any other books by Riley Sager, nor do I really feel like I will, because I know this is his most popular one. And if I don't like his most popular one, then I might not like the rest of them. Who knows? Moving on to Ignite Me. This is the third book in the Shatter Me series, and the series is okay. If you're looking for a fast-paced YA dystopian series, and you just kind of need something to get you out of a reading slump, I would definitely recommend it. I did like the first original 3 books. I think we could have probably stopped at 3. I don't remember much from it, honestly. So, yeah, honestly, I just don't remember much from the 3rd book, sadly. Quick drink break, not sponsored, Alani. Then we have If It Makes You Happy. This was a fall romance that a lot of people were comparing to Gilmore Girls, which I love Gilmore Girls. I watch it every single fall. And so it kind of blew up on Instagram, and I honestly really ended up enjoying it. It's like a 400-page romance. So at first I was like, okay, well, what's happening? But it ended up being really good. I loved the romance and the connection that the 2 main characters had. I will say in the last like 100 pages, there is, I think, like 3 or 4 spice scenes, which I thought was maybe a little excessive, at least for my personal taste. And so, because of that, I put it in the almost but not quite category. I think if it maybe had a little less spice, I would have loved it. Chef's kiss. But yes, definitely really, really loved that one. Then we have The Bletchley Riddle. This is a young reader's historical fiction following 2 siblings during World War II. Their mom disappears in Poland, and so then the brother ends up helping crack secret codes that the Germans are using, and then the sister kind of goes undercover, does her own spy work to try and find their missing mom. So overall, it was a really fun read. I would say if you're wanting to get into historical fiction, but you're worried about understanding like the atmosphere and the history behind it, this one was a very easy read. So I would put it in the I'd recommend category. Ruta Sepeti, who is one of my favorite historical fiction authors, co-wrote this with another author, and it was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. Then we have Finlay Donovan Digs Her Own Grave. This is the 4th book in the Finlay Donovan series, and honestly, I don't remember much from this book at all, sadly. I think it's getting to the point in the series where I'm like, okay, can we kind of wrap this up a little bit? I think it's just being prolonged, and there's even another book that's coming out later this year. That'll be the 5th installment of the series. So, no, Finlay Donovan Digs Her Own Grave, that's the 5th book, and then there's a 6th book coming out later this year. So it is kind of starting to become a little excessive, in my opinion. As much as I love the characters, I feel like this story, it has to end at some point. So I think because of that, I would put it in the don't remember much category. Then we have Finlay Donovan Jumps the Gun. This is the 3rd book in the series, and I honestly really enjoyed this one. I loved the setting of the police academy. I thought that was a fun twist to it. They're just really fun, quirky books with like sprinkles of romance, and then obviously it's mystery. There's also comedy aspects of it. So I really enjoyed the 3rd book, so I would put it in the just good category. Then we have the 1st book in the selection series called The Selection, and I did really enjoy this one. I thought it was really good. It was a good setup for the series. I just feel like all 5 books could have been condensed into maybe only 3 or 4 books. I do think it was prolonged maybe just a little bit too much, but I would say I would put the 1st book in the series in the just good category. Then we have Unravel Me, which is the 2nd book in the Shatter Me series. And I really liked this one. I will say I was very much Team Adam in the beginning. I was rooting for him. I still think he's not a bad character. I think he gets more hate than he deserves on social media. So I would put the 2nd book in the I recommend category. Then I did start the Throne of Glass series, which was my first series ever by Sarah J. Maas. And I really enjoyed this one. I did start with Throne of Glass because I found it in a free little library, funny enough. So because that was the only book I had on hand at the time, that's the book that I started with. And I did really enjoy it. I will say I enjoyed, I think, Assassin's Blade and Crown of Midnight more. But I do think Throne of Glass, it's a good start to the series. Like, it's a good first brick in the foundation. So I would put it in the I'd recommend series. Like, I do think it's a fun read for sure. Then we have The Tenant by Frida McFadden. This is the only Frida McFadden book that I've actually finished. I tried reading The Boyfriend, and I ended up DNFing that, I think, early on in 2025.
And the Tenet, it was meh. Like, I feel like Frida McFadden is just one of those authors where she has a formula and she sticks to that, and then she just kind of changes details here and there. I could be wrong. Again, this is the only Frida McFadden book that I've actually read, but it kind of felt like after I finished this one, I read all of the Frida McFadden books, which she has a ton. I'm just like, how does she sleep? Okay, she writes a lot of books. So honestly, I would put it in the meh category. It is a fun thriller. I will say if you're wanting to get more into mystery thriller, she's definitely a good place to start. But it was nothing wow or profound to me. It was just meh. Then we have Shatter Me, which is the first book in the Shatter Me series. And funny enough, the first book is my favorite out of the whole series, which I know is a very unpopular opinion. I just remember reading this and really connecting with Juliet and some of the emotions she was feeling. I remember annotating my book like crazy. There was a little part at the end that I think kind of is what turned me off to the rest of the series. It kind of goes more into the supernatural side of dystopian rather than I think I was more expecting like the Hunger Games, Maze Runner, Divergent type of dystopian. But honestly, like again, because I enjoyed the first book series the most, I would put it in the just good category. Then we have Summer Romance by Annabelle Monaghan. I love Annabelle Monaghan. I think she writes really amazing, fun, real in-depth summer romances. I think I have read all have I read all of her books? I think I have read all of her books up to this point, and every single one I definitely recommend. I think they're really fun ones, but they also have more depth and substance to them outside of the romance. And so I would say I would put Summer Romance in the I would put it in the just good category because I don't remember much of the storyline or some of the emotions that the characters were going through, but I do remember really enjoying this one. Then we have Finlay Donovan Knocks Him Dead. This is the second book in the Finlay Donovan series, and this one was okay. I think I enjoyed the first and the third one the most out of the whole series. The second one just very much kind of felt like a filler book, honestly, but I don't remember much from it or the storyline and what happens with it, so I'm honestly going to put it in the don't remember much category. Then we have The Elite, which is the second book in the selection series. And guys, I feel so bad. There's 3 books in this series in this tier, but I don't remember much from this at all. I think I really only remember stuff from the first book and the 5th book, so the beginning and the end of the series. All the books in between, I don't remember anything that happened in those books. So sorry if you love that series. I will probably end up reading it. It's still sitting on my shelf. I do remember it is a fun dystopian series to read, but yes, nothing that really stuck out to me. Betting on You by Lynn Painter. This is another one of her YA romances, and I honestly really enjoyed this one. I will say the like third act conflict, I was like, okay, I can understand this. Like, I too would be a little frustrated with that. I wasn't super happy kind of with how it ended and how that conflict resolved. I think I would put it in the I'd recommend category because again, they're really fun romances. They're always like is a subplot of something and deeper, more emotional that's going on, and you're not just strictly focusing on the romance. So I would say I always recommend her YA romances. I think they're fun, they're quick reads. Yeah, that's about it on that one. Then the first book on the Finlay Donovan series is Finlay Donovan is Killing It. Again, I think it's a really fun and quirky series. I grew up watching TV shows like Monk and Psych, which obviously have that mystery thriller aspect, but also that comedy aspect as well. And so this series just honestly reminds me of that, which is probably why I enjoyed it so much. So I would put it in the just good category. Then we have The 13th Child by Erin A. Craig. This is the second book that I've read by Erin A. Craig. I read House of Salt and Sorrows and honestly didn't really enjoy that one. So I was a little skeptical going into this one, but I can say with confidence that this book bewitched me body and soul. It was so good. It's a standalone. Yes, it's 500 pages, but it goes by so quickly. I remember crying at points. I just felt so much emotion and sympathy towards the main character. And I think I read it around the October period, and it was just honestly a perfect fall read. So I really enjoyed this one. Then we have The Crown which is the last book in the selection series. And honestly, I liked the romance in this one. I remember really enjoying it and being happy with the guy that she ended up picking in the end. So I would put it in the I'd recommend category. Then we have Imagine Me, which is is this the 6th book in the Shatter Me series? I don't know. Again, I don't remember much from like the 3rd book on. I do remember thinking that the last book was just kind of meh. I think a lot of the conflict was resolved very quickly because you spent so much time throughout the books building up to it, and then it just kind of fell flat. So I would put it in the meh category, unfortunately. Then we have Middle Tide by Sarah Crouch. This was a debut mystery, and again, it was one of those books where it was an interesting concept, but the execution just fell really flat for me. I thought the writing was very bland. It just very short, cut and dry sentences, not a lot of detail, not a lot of in depth. And then I don't even remember how it ended. And so I would honestly put it in the meh category. Then we have The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. This was my first ever cozy fantasy. And I honestly really enjoyed this one. I thought it was very sweet. I kind of was reading this one in between some of my other reads at the time, just as like a little bit of a brain break. And I thought it was sweet. I really enjoyed the world building. I enjoyed our main character. I enjoyed a lot of the side characters. So I would put it in the just good category. Like, I do have the 2nd book, and I'm excited to continue the series. But yeah, they're just very sweet, wholesome, low stakes fantasy reads that I think are always good just to kind of help break up some of maybe the more intense reads. Then we have Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I honestly really enjoyed this one. I know a lot of people don't really like it, but I remember, again, enjoying my time while I was reading it, and so I would put it in the good category. I think I really connected to the main female character because she just gives so much of herself away to her sister and gives up so much for her sister. And as somebody who is kind of a people pleaser and tends to do that myself, I really connected with that aspect of the story. Then we have Believe Me. This is the last novella in the Shatter Me series. And honestly, I get annoyed just thinking about it. I don't think we needed this novella at all. There was a spice scene in the end that I think was just completely unnecessary. And yeah, I feel like you could read the whole series and just honestly skip the last novella. Then we have Restore Me. This is the 4th book in the Shatter Me series. And I do remember this one being very interesting. It definitely connected, I think, some plot holes in the 2nd and 3rd book a little bit. So I do remember enjoying this one. But again, I feel like the series just got prolonged. There was stuff added that I didn't think was necessary. So honestly, I would put the 4th book in the I'd recommend category. Then we have What You Wish For by Katherine Center. I think at the time I gave this a 5-star read, and then I never thought about it again. It does kind of have a heavy topic in it. You're following 2 teachers. One of them is a principal. The other one is kind of like the fun, outgoing. I think she's a school librarian, actually. And it kind of is a sequel to Happiness for Beginners, also by Katherine Center. Because in What You Wish For, you're following a character from Happiness for Beginners. So I did kind of enjoy that connection a little bit. But overall, like, as I think about it, I would just put it in the just good category. Like, again, love Katherine Center. Always love her writings. I am almost done with her entire backlog, so I will read anything that Katherine Center puts out. Then we have As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. This is the 3rd book in the Good Girls Guide to Murder series, and this one was wild, y'all. It is so different from the 1st and 2nd book, and I honestly really enjoyed it. The second half, I think I blew through maybe in a day, day and a half, and I don't do that too often with books, but I just remember having to know what happened in this book. It was a wild ride. It did kind of have an open ending, but in a good way. So I would say, again, I'm not a big mystery thriller reader. So honestly, I'm going to put it in the almost but not quite category because it wasn't quite a 5-star, but I did really enjoy my time reading it. And I read through it, and I think in like 2 or 3 days, which is very rare for me. Then we have My Friends by Frederick Bachman. This was my first full-length book by Frederick Bachman that I read, and honestly, I don't remember much from it. I remember the premise and kind of what happens, but I don't remember any of the characters' names. I kind of remember some of the backstory that you get with the characters, but I don't know. As soon as I finished this book, it kind of felt like I forgot everything that I ever read in it. So I know Frederick Bachman is well beloved. I think I'm going to continue to read some of his other works, but I just feel like this maybe was not the best book to start off with first. I do remember he did have some really good prose and one-liners in it. I mostly audiobooked this, so maybe that was also my problem. Maybe I should have read it physically, so then I could have maybe paid a little bit more attention to the characters and the storyline, but honestly, I'm really sorry. I don't remember much from it. Then we have Fracture Me. This is one of the novellas in the Shatter Me series, and honestly, I don't remember what this one is about. I don't remember who we're following, because that's the thing, is the novellas you're following from the perspective of some of the other characters, while the main books in Shatter Me you're mostly following from either Juliet or Erin Warner's perspective. I think you get Kenji's in there a couple times, but that comes like later on in the series. So honestly, I don't remember much from this novella. Then we have Borrow My Heart. This is another little sweet YA romance, and it was okay. It was kind of meh. I think the conflict at the end was well deserved. Like, I think I would be a little frustrated by that, and again, it didn't really get resolved, which annoyed me a little bit. But yeah, I just put it in the meh category. Then we have Defy Me, which is the 5th book in the Shatter Me series. Man, guys, I gotta just get through this whole Shatter Me series because there's so many books. I think there's 6 main books and 5 novellas. So if you count the novellas as books, there's 11 books in this series. Like, that is wild, okay? Like, I don't think we needed that many books in this series. So sadly, I'm going to put Defy Me and don't remember much. Shadow Me is another novella, don't remember much from it. Reveal Me is another novella, don't remember much from that one. Destroy Me, don't remember much from that one. So we're just going to go bing, bang, boom, basically meaning this series was not very memorable aside from the 1st and 2nd book. So sorry to all the Shadow Me lovers out there. I did reread Powerless, again in anticipation for Fearless, which came out I think in April of last year, and I would put Powerless in the almost, but not quite. Again, every single time I read it, like, I love the story, I love the characters. There are just parts that kind of drag a little bit, and even after rereading them, they still kind of dragged in the same spot. So I'd say it's almost a 5-star, but not quite for me. We have No Place Left to Hide. Oh my gosh, this book annoyed me so much. I remember just being so fed up with the main female character. Like, I was just annoyed with her the whole time. But I kept listening to the audiobook because I had to know how it ended. But again, I think I gave it 2 stars. I did not enjoy this book whatsoever. Y'all, my microphone died. So we're doing great in this video. Okay, but we're so close. Okay, here we go. I then read People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry, which I think this so far has been my favorite Emily Henry book, so I'm going to put it in the Bewitched Me. I absolutely loved Poppy and Alex and their relationship. I'm a huge fan of the friends to lovers trope. I loved the setting. I read it by the poolside, and it just was the most perfect summer read ever, and I absolutely loved it. Which I find funny because I feel like this is everybody's least favorite Emily Henry book, but I personally loved it. So it's going in the Bewitched Me category. It was a 5-star for me. Loved the movie. I just watched that a couple days ago, and I think the movie did a really good job of bringing the book to life. Then we have Divine Arrivals, which is another super popular book on Book Talk, Bookstagram, Booktube, and I read this because I love World War II historical fiction, but I also, again, really discovered that I loved the historical fantasy genre. So I was very intrigued to read this duology. And I did really enjoy the first book. I will say it wasn't quite a 5-star for me. And I think that's because there were parts of the book that dragged a little bit, or I found myself getting a little bored, but then something would happen and then I would be invested again. So I'm going to put it in the almost but not quite category. Then we have The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. This one bewitched me body and soul. I cried during this one. I just related to the main character a lot, and there was one scene in particular where our main female character Emily is talking with the male main character, and I remember just the way they were talking really resonated with me. I loved this book, loved that it took place on Valentine's Day. I'm probably going to reread it in February again just because I loved it so much. So this is 5-star read for me, going in the bewitched me category. Then we have The Assassin's Blade. I read this one after Crown of Midnight, so I did not read Assassin's Blade first. I did really like Assassin's Blade. I liked kind of the short stories and how it was a collection of novellas basically, but I honestly don't remember much from it other than the ending, which I feel like everybody remembers the ending of this one. So I would say I'd put it in the I'd recommend category for sure. It does really add a lot to Selena's backstory and kind of what happens before the first book. So I do think it does add to the experience and to the series. So I'd put it in the I'd recommend category. Then I have The Night We Lost Him by Laura Dave. I honestly kind of forgot I read this one, and I don't remember much from it, which is interesting because I've read The Last Thing He Told Me by her, and I did really enjoy that one. So I was curious to read some of her other books. I think this was her new release in maybe it was 2024. So I was interested to read more books by her. But yeah, I honestly don't remember much from this one. And we have I Hope This Doesn't Find You. This is another YA romance one. And honestly, this one goes in the meh category, which is sad because I think it has a very high rating on Goodreads. But I just remember being kind of annoyed with the main female character. She just kind of got this in her head that her academic rival hates her, and she just kind of stuck with that and ran with that. Now, that does change kind of towards the end of the book, but I remember just thinking, girl, like, come on, he doesn't hate you. Like, if you look at what he's doing, he doesn't hate you. So, unfortunately, it goes in the meh category for me. Then we have Ready or Not by Cara Bastone. I read this thinking it was a kind of springtime romance. It actually starts at Christmas and it does end in the springtime. But I remember at the beginning, like, not really being invested. I think, again, because I was anticipating a spring read just based off of the cover. I also just didn't really connect with the characters a lot or the storyline. I think I would pick this up, read a couple chapters, then I would put it down for a while. So I think it took me maybe like 2 or 3 months to actually get through, which is not usually a good sign. I did end up finishing it, but again, it wasn't my favorite. So unfortunately, it goes in the meh category for me. Then we have the first book, which is The Summer I Turned Pretty, and I did really enjoy this one. Again, I enjoy the series as a whole. I definitely recommend the series. Love Jenny Han's writing. Again, really enjoyed the TV show. Perfect summer read, so I'd recommend. And we have Olivetti. This is another young reader's book. I kind of picked this up on a whim just because the premise sounded interesting to me. And it is a very short, very fast paced read. And it honestly was really cute, you guys. Like, I was not expecting it. Like, there are some really good young readers' books out there that I feel like you can enjoy even as an adult. So I honestly would put Olivetti in the good category. Then we have Fearless, which is the third main book in the Powerless series, which I remember liking it. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as the first and second one. It did have a good ending. I will say that the ending did kind of destroy me a little bit, but I just remember it being kind of repetitive, very similar to the first book, kind of one of those same song, second verse type situations. So I would put Fearless in the just good category. And then The Queen of Nothing. This is the third book in the Cruel Prince trilogy. And again, I found this one interesting. It had some interesting twists for sure. There is actually a spice scene in this one, which is interesting because I feel like it mostly gets marketed as a no spice series, but there is a full-on open door scene in here, which I was not expecting. So that was a little jarring for sure. I honestly don't remember much from it though. So I'm gonna put it in the forgot I read, don't remember much from the series. Then we have The Wedding People. I am normally not a literary fiction type of person, but I heard lots of really good things about this. I know it was on a Goodreads Choice Award list. I don't know if it actually won, but I was kind of, again, looking for some summer reads, and I know this one takes place at a fancy hotel on a small island, and I honestly didn't know what to expect. I will say the premise of this book has a very heavy topic regarding mental health, and you don't really get that just based off of reading the dust jacket. And thankfully, like I had heard somebody else mention that before, so I kind of was mentally prepared. But yeah, it was really interesting. I did honestly really enjoy it. I enjoyed the growth and the journey that the main character goes on. I remember there wasn't a lot of actual on-page spice, but there was definitely a lot of references to it. So that was a little off-putting for me, but I would say overall, like, I'd recommend it. I thought it was a good read. Then we have Finley Donovan Rolls the Dice. This is the fourth book in the Finley Donovan series. Honestly, don't remember much from this one. I think you mostly are following Vero, which is the nanny. You kind of get more of her backstory, but again, I don't really remember any details at all in this one. Then we have Alchemy of Secrets by Stephanie Garber. I love Stephanie Garber. I love the Carval series. I have not finished Once Upon a Broken Heart. I'm hoping to do that this year. But I remember when I read Carval in, was it 2023? I just remember absolutely loving that series. So I had high hopes for this one. I will say it was not quite a 5-star. I did really enjoy my time reading it. I thought it was an interesting premise. I loved the setting and the atmosphere. Again, love Stephanie Garber's writing. So I'm going to put this in the almost but not quite category. I am excited to continue reading the series, which I think she confirmed it is going to be a trilogy. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Then we have It's Not Summer Without You. This is the second book in the Summer I Turned Pretty series. I honestly don't remember much from this one. I think I remember it being kind of more of a filler book between books 1 and 3. So sadly, it's going to go in the forgot I read, don't remember much. Then we have The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year. I read this around Christmas time. This is like a Christmas romance slash mystery. And I had a fun time reading this. The ending was a little confusing to me. I did have to go back and reread it just because I didn't exactly know what was going on. But I would definitely recommend it, especially if you're looking for just like a fun holiday read to get you kind of in that Christmas mood. And we have The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. This was the first book that I actually read by Rachel Gillig, even though I have One Dark Window sitting on my shelf right now. But I read this one for a book club, and I thought it was okay. Even though it's a fantasy, there was a lot of modern cursing in it, which anytime that's in fantasy books, I feel like it's just kind of unnecessary and kind of takes me out of the fantasy world. There were parts of the book that I did enjoy, but then other parts that I felt like kind of went really fast. Like there was a lot of buildup, and then the resolution was very quick. So I honestly think this book probably could have easily been another 100 pages, and if that was the case, then I would have, I think, enjoyed it a lot more. I don't even know if I would necessarily recommend it. I do remember parts of the book, so maybe I might just put it in the meh category. Sorry to all those that really enjoyed this. Then we have Crown of Midnight. This is the, depending on how you look at it, second book in the Throne of Glass series. At least I read this book second after reading Throne of Glass, and I really enjoyed this one. I think I read this kind of I tried doing a 24-hour readathon. I remember just kind of blowing through this book. I really enjoyed the storyline. There's a little subplot of romance in there that I really liked, and I think the writing was just leaps and bounds better than Throne of Glass. So I'm going to put this in the good category. All right, guys, we're getting so close. We're almost there. We have Five to Survive by Holly Jackson. Again, I don't read too many thrillers, but I just love Holly Jackson's books. And this one compared to the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy, I would say I enjoyed A Good Girl's Guide to Murder more, but I still really enjoyed my time reading this one. I think it's interesting that it takes place over the course of 24 hours. And so that kind of kept me reading and wanting to finish it because, again, the whole book is supposed to take place in one night. And I think I also read this one during kind of that 24-hour reading challenge that I did. So I would say I'd put it in the just good category because it is a good book. Then we have Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney. This was her new release for 2025. And this one was okay. There were parts of it that I did not really enjoy. The whole twist at the end, I wasn't honestly really a huge fan of. So I'd put it, I guess, in the meh category. I still enjoyed my time reading it. I love Alice Feeney's books. I am excited for her new release. But yeah, this one just never really stuck out to me. Then we have Heartless Hunter. I feel really bad because I did not enjoy this one actually. If you're unfamiliar with this book, it follows a witch and a witch hunter, and it's kind of got like a cat and mouse premise to it. But the witchcraft that took place just made me feel kind of icky inside, which is interesting because like when it comes to like Harry Potter, like that type of magic system, I don't have a problem with. But for some reason, just this one did not sit with me very well. Even though it is a young adult series, there is a spice scene in there too. Again, what's with adding spice into young adult? Okay, that's why I kind of read young adult more, because it's supposed to be no spice. I'm not annoyed by the book. I did not enjoy it. It was not for me. So unfortunately, I'm just going to put it in the bottom tier. Then we have Powerful, which is the first novella in the Powerless series. And this one, oh my gosh, you're following Adina's perspective. And I didn't know I could feel that many emotions in such a short book. This one, it's so good. So it's gonna go in the good tier for sure. Which actually, I'm gonna put it in the almost but not quite because I wouldn't say it wasn't necessarily a 5-star, but I did enjoy my time reading it. All right, 5 books left. Here we go. We have It's a Love Story by Annabelle Monaghan. This was her new release for 2025, and I actually read a e-arc of it, which I was very gracious for. And I really loved this one. I remember not enjoying it as much as some of her others. This one, romance-wise, is more fade to black, kind of almost like cracked open door type of book. I also remember the third act conflict kind of being mild, I guess, or not that important. I feel like it was a small thing that kind of got blown out of proportion that again could have very easily just been cleared up with one simple conversation. But again, because I love Annabelle Monaghan's books, I would put this one in the I'd recommend category. We have Falling, is it Falling? Falling Like Leaves. Gosh, I can't even remember the title. I really enjoyed this one. This is a very cute young adult fall romance read. Very, again, Gilmore Girls vibes. I really liked this one. I know a lot of people actually hated it, but I personally liked it. Yes, our female main character is a little mean to our male main character, but again, it's friends to lovers, childhood, it's actually even childhood friends to lovers, kind of second chance romance. So I really enjoyed this one. I would put it in the I'd recommend category. And we have A Song to Drown Rivers. This one bewitched me, body and soul. Hold on, let me get it up there. I had no idea what to expect this one, but I loved it. The tension and the yearning and the romance and the fantasy elements, it was all really, really good. It's very more, I would say, historical fiction, couple minor fantasy elements mixed with romance. It is a standalone, which kind of makes me sad because if it was a series, I would 100% continue it. But I loved this book. It was just so beautiful. And we have 2 books by Sarah Penner. I will say I read the Amalfi Curse first, and I really enjoyed that one. I again didn't know what to expect with this, but I really liked the blending of historical fiction with fantasy. There was also like literary fiction and mystery in there. It kind of honestly combined a bunch of different genres, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm going to put that in the just good category. because then after reading that one, I immediately wanted to go and read her backlist. So then I read The Lost Apothecary, which this one was okay. I did not enjoy it as much as The Amalfi Curse. I will continue reading her books because, again, I liked how she blends historical fiction with literary fiction and even some fantasy elements sprinkled out through there. So I'd put The Lost Apothecary and I'd recommend. Again, I really enjoyed her writing. I have one more book in her backlist that I need to read, and I don't know if she's coming out with anything new this year, but I did really enjoy her writing. So, and there you go. There you have it. That is my entire tier rank of all the books that I read in 2025. So if you've made it this far in the video through all of the technical glitches and errors and my constant rambling, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe, as well as check out my Instagram channel. And I'm so excited to talk more about books with you in the coming year. Bye!